Hi, everyone, and welcome to the webinar. We are going to let a few more log on, so just hang tight for a moment and we will get started momentarily. Let's get started. Hi, everyone. I am Bethany Moran. I am the Senior Vice President of Partnerships, and I am your moderator today for the webinar, Reimagine Higher Ed, Connecting Revenue and Reputation for Sustainable Growth. We're happy to have you here today. At Education Dynamics, we maximize human potential by transforming people, teams, and organizations in higher education. That is our purpose. And we are here shaping modern education. And we understand in order to thrive in this market, you must focus on reputation and revenue because we know tomorrow's challenges will not be solved with yesterday's solutions. Building a strong brand and empowering growth at institutions to drive revenue is what we do through a proven strategic approach of applying a process of research, strategy, action, and measurement to lead to continuous improvement in our work every day with our partners. And as you can see from this slide, we have quite a story to tell. With over 35 years of experience, we have a 95% partner retention rate. We manage over 85 million in annual ad buys. We are a proud member of the Google Education Advisory Council. And most recently, we were awarded the 2025 Enrollment Management Solution Provider of the Year by the EdTech Breakthrough Awards. So we feel that all of these wonderful things speak for themselves. A few housekeeping items before we get started. Just as a reminder, if you stay live throughout the webinar, there is an exclusive access to our latest guidebook on reputation management. So you'll want to stay throughout the webinar to be able to access that. In addition, this presentation will be recorded. We'll email you a link after the webinar, and the recording will be sent out either later today or in the morning. And now let's get to it. Reimagine Higher Ed, connecting revenue and reputation for sustainable growth. I will let our presenters introduce themselves. Maggie?
Thank you, Bethany. Hello, folks. I'm Maggie Ralbowski, president of R.W. Jones Agency. I checked the registrant list and I was thrilled to see so many familiar names. Also, we have some folks joining us from outside of the United States. So welcome to those of you from other nations. And we're thrilled to have a global group here with us today. I'd like to then turn it over now to my colleague, Sarah Russell.
Thanks, Maggie. And hi, everyone. My name is Sarah Russell, Vice President of Marketing at Education Dynamics. And in my role, I've had the opportunity to work with countless higher ed marketing teams. And one of the biggest challenges that always comes up is this tug of war between investing in your institutional brand and reputation and the immediate need to drive enrollment revenue. So the work that my team and I do is really dedicated to bridging that gap and helping develop a strategic plan that supports both and showcases how a strong, authentic reputation can drive really sustainable enrollment growth. And I'm excited to share some of those insights with you. Let's jump in. Our agenda today will hit on how the modern learner and their usage of different tools and platforms really changes the game for higher education marketing. We'll also talk about why reputation is more than your brand image, but a performance asset. And finally, what you as leaders should be thinking about to align your brand with performance outcomes. With that, I'd like to start by diving into the behavior evolution we're seeing from students in today's modern marketing era. We truly are at a turning point right now in higher ed marketing. And some of the biggest shifts that we are seeing are, first, how prospective students seek out and value information about going to school is seeing some really significant shifts. Today's students are more self-directed in their search for education, and they're actively researching programs across multiple platforms, including search engines, social media, and definitely AI-driven tools. They expect really instant, personalized information, and if they don't find it easily, they'll move on to another option. And secondly, the role of brand in your marketing is now more important than ever. With the increasing use of AI and more automation driving performance marketing, it's really easy to focus purely on those performance metrics, but leaning into your brand remains essential. Students are not just choosing a program, they're choosing an institution that aligns with their values, their career goals, and their lifestyle. And a strong brand reputation differentiates institutions in a crowded market, builds trust with these students and other stakeholders, and improves conversion rates across all of your marketing efforts. So the ways that we connect with these students are undergoing major transformations. The channels where they seek out information, the tools we use to reach them there, and the role of your brand in their decision-making have all evolved, driven by shifts in technology, behavior, and student expectations. And this is not a future shift, it's really happening right now. And if we don't evolve our strategies to meet the expectations of the modern learner, we risk falling behind. One of the most clearly recognizable areas where this shift is taking place is with Google's search engine results page, or SERP. Once upon a time, search queries generated pretty consistently replicable search results. If Maggie and I searched for the same keyword, we would typically generate a fairly similar list of paid and organic results. But now search is more personalized than ever. AI is transforming search results from a list of links into a personalized answer engine with AI-driven features that are customized to individual users based on a huge array of audience signals. And this evolution is further magnified by the experience searchers have with AI mode, which I think represents the likely search experience of a very near future. The goal is no longer just to be a link that ranks as highly as possible, but to be the source of truth that drives all of these responses. And one of the most disheartening things I've seen over the last few months as these SERP changes have become more prominent is that many institutions are devaluing their SEO within this landscape, or falling into the trap of believing that SEO is dead because of the shifts we're seeing with AI search. But the truth is that, yes, traditional old school SEO tactics are definitely on the way out, but your overall website optimization strategy, including AI-driven SEO, is more important now than ever, because this is really what fuels the AI search results that are dominating the student journey. And if you're not actively investing in that process and driving how your brand is represented here, you will quickly become obsolete in the age of AI search. Some marketers call this a shift from SEO to GEO, or generative engine optimization. I've also heard it called AEO, or answer engine optimization, but no matter what you call it, it's crucial that your strategy to make your website and your brand discoverable in this new reality is evolving as dynamically as the space is. So the defining characteristic of AI-driven search is definitely the rise of AI overviews. These are now the default experience for prospective students, with 78% of all higher ed searches returning an AI overview results. And this is a number that continues to climb. With this growth in AI overviews, as well as the rise of ChatGPT and other chatbot-powered experiences, we can expect the search journey and how students are engaging in it to continue evolving. This transformation will see a shift toward straightforward answers and curated links rather than an endless list of websites to scroll through. So the experience becomes more honed, more curated, and personalized for a specific user, providing answers and information rather than just links. And this doesn't make your website any less relevant in the decision journey for a modern learner. It's actually quite the opposite. but it does make the challenge of how to drive prospective students to your website or get them to engage in your brand's content much more complex. And this is where Education Dynamics can help your team navigate this complexity, because optimizing your website experience is no longer just about driving traffic or clicks. It's now increasingly important to consider how your brand content is surfaced across a variety of experiences. And that includes your website, your social media presence, AI overviews, videos, and other experiences both within that search engine results page as well as across the web. As AI has become really integrated into student search behavior, it's also impacting the way they search. Queries are becoming longer, more natural, and more conversational as searchers interact with AI-driven search similarly to how they would talk to another human being. They're moving from short keyword-based searches to asking complex and multifaceted questions. So as an example, instead of a student searching for best online MBA, more and more we're seeing them start asking things like, what are the best online MBA programs for working parents with a flexible schedule? They're treating the search bar like they're talking to a person, and they're adding in more and more nuance to their searches because of it. And alongside this shift in search queries, we're also seeing shifts in traffic patterns. For many of these informational keywords where AI overviews are appearing most frequently, organic clicks have become a lot more volatile. Students are getting the answers they need in the AI overview itself. Zero-click searches are increasing, and the way that we previously assigned value to that stage by measuring traffic and clicks is no longer a valid way to accurately measure the impact that it has. Just because a student doesn't click through to your website in those scenarios doesn't mean that the AIO, which was powered by your content, wasn't valuable or impactful for them. The student journey is just becoming less direct and requires a more sophisticated measurement strategy to connect those dots. Now, the complexity in today's search environment extends beyond Google, because search is not just happening in search engines anymore. Younger audiences, particularly Gen Z, are just as likely to use social platforms for discovering and exploring brands as they are traditional search engines. This means that our brand and content strategy cannot be Google-centric, it has to be audience-centric. So this really highlights a shift in student behavior where social media is not just for entertainment anymore. It's a critical part of how students explore and evaluate their different options for growing their career or going back to school or going to school for the first time. The way that students engage with social content in particular is deeply personal, and they expect to see real, relatable insights that help them envision what their experience at a school might look like. They really crave fast, visual, and community-driven content rather than sifting through traditional search results and ads. Because beyond just having the program that they're looking for, students want to feel like they belong at your school. They want to see really diverse student perspectives. They want to hear success stories from alumni, and they want to understand what makes your school's culture unique. Social media is a highly visual and video-dominated medium, so it provides an amazing opportunity to create that emotional connection and sense of belonging within your brand reputation. And for us as marketers, this means that when you think about search, it's no longer just about Google. It's about being visible wherever audiences are searching. And a key component of driving engagement in these platforms is how your brand is represented and resonates with students. Another massive shift in student behavior that we've seen is a transformation in how they begin their search journey. Over the last 10 years, where we previously saw a majority of prospective students beginning their search with program keywords, that has shifted significantly to brand keywords as the initial search query in a prospective student's journey. And I cannot stress enough how important this data point is when you're reflecting on your marketing and brand strategy across performance marketing, but as well as within your overall brand and reputation approach. Because a decade ago, we were able to leverage search marketing as an initial touch point to enter a prospective student's consideration set. Now they're starting with a brand search. So if you aren't in their consideration set at that point, it's really going to be difficult to get within that consideration set at all. And for an industry that has leaned really heavily into performance marketing, this shift in student behavior really changes the game and how you think about that allocation between performance and brand. So it's clear that as the marketing landscape continues to evolve, higher ed marketing and reputation strategies need to do the same. Traditional approaches that worked just a few years ago are no longer enough to meet the expectations of the modern one. With many schools putting a huge emphasis on performance marketing, it can be really easy to lose sight of the impact of your brand. But the truth is, brand reputation matters now more than ever. Students are making very high consideration decisions, and trust plays a significant role in their choices, especially as the industry becomes more and more noisy about the value of a college degree or the role of the Department of Education. So building that trust is important not just for your brand, but for the trust that prospective students have in higher education in general. And as we just talked about, students are increasingly starting their search journey with brand terms at the exact same time that the search experience is becoming more complex to optimize. And in this landscape, institutions that differentiate themselves with a strong and authentic brand that's reinforced across every touch point, those are the institutions that will stand out in a crowded and competitive landscape. Because as we've seen, students are seeking you out across a variety of experiences. That includes social media, forums, chatbots, and more. And because of this, search optimization has moved beyond the SERP. Alongside all of this, the search behavior has really shifted away from program-specific terms as that initial touch point and into broader brand-first campaigns. So with all of these shifts in mind, a strong brand reputation is crucial to resonating with prospective students across every channel. The focus today really needs to be on authenticity, being real and consistent across every touch point with a student, whether that's on social media, in an ad, or in a conversation. So what does that mean for you as a higher education leader and for your marketing approach? First, your brand reputation is driven by a combination of how discoverable you are in today's search environment and how credible students and other key audiences find you to be. Your website really acts as the hub of this, but increasingly your brand is what drives students there. And finally, optimizing your website requires an approach that embraces search behavior across platforms and evolves with an evolving marketing landscape. All of these considerations are critical for developing marketing strategies that will connect your revenue and your reputation. And if you're unsure how to put this in practice, this is where my team of marketing experts at Eddy can help. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Maggie to continue the conversation and help us rethink how we approach reputation.
Thank you, Sarah. Boy, that was tremendous, clear, and tremendously important. I always learn so much when Sarah shares such data, and I'm so thrilled to be able to take it from here to talk about rethinking reputation. So let's do a little quiz. Fact or fiction? Brand is really only about marketing. What do you think, people? I guess we kind of gave it away with the way that was worded. It's fiction. Brand is not only about marketing. So let's look at the facts. Brand and reputation determine your visibility in every conversation, from search, enrollment, to philanthropy. And I really want to make sure that we talk about reputation as infrastructure. It's not the polish, it's the scaffolding. It's not the fruit, it's the tree. So it's not what you say, it's what people believe. And whether they want to join you, whether they want to enroll, whether they want to donate, whether they want to join on as your faculty member or be hired as one of your staff members. And especially now in a time of deep public skepticism and demographic shifts and disruption, reputation's no longer optional, it's foundational. So remember, it's not what you say about yourself, it's what you've helped people come to believe. And let's talk a little bit about perception to performance. So let's reframe this. Reputation doesn't live in a press release. It lives in the perception of your mission, your values, and to elevate it up to becoming infrastructure, if you haven't already, because I know we're speaking to some people in this webinar who absolutely know this and do it beautifully. But if you haven't and you're thinking about it, let's talk about how it needs to be strategically planned. It needs to be resourced with the intention of delivering measurable outcomes, because we all know we're being asked to measure outcomes, rightly so. And it needs to be integrated. So when I think of reputation, what comes to mind pretty quickly is a couple of I words: infrastructure and integration. So it needs to be integrated across your institution, not solely owned by the marketing and communications departments. And we know that it's not about clever taglines. We know that reputations are built through clarity of mission, consistency of voice, and a long-term commitment to your public presence. Repetition, 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 you know that. And reputation is the lens through which all institutional actions will be interpreted. Remember, if you're not shaping your reputation, it's being shaped for you. So let's look at this little checklist, checkpoint. What do you think? Are you under-investing in reputation? A few of these check marks. Does brand only show up in marketing materials? Hopefully not. Are leadership voices visible in national discourse? Hopefully so. And I know hope is not a strategy, so we're talking about actually doing this and carrying this out. Is your mission consistently reflected in your communications? And are your reputation outcomes tracked alongside revenue metrics? Back to revenue and reputation going hand in hand. Here's a nice depiction of this. The fact that reputation, again, it's not a marketing campaign. So if you look at this beautiful diagram, you see we've got, again, back to strategy, we've got integration, and we've got something that's well-resourced. It's not about spin. I often say I'm allergic to the word spin, so I hope people don't ever use it. Please don't use it. It's not about spin. It's about substance. It's not about your latest press release or the carousel of photos on the homepage. It's your mission, values, and the visibility about those. Consistently demonstrated, strategically communicated, and well-resourced. Think about it. It underpins, it's the foundational infrastructure for enrollment, for advancement, for academics, for hiring, retention, and it's resilient because you've got it integrated throughout all of those areas. Again, you've got it strategically planned and well-resourced. And I have examples, and they will come after we talk a little bit about this, which is, think about the channels that drive this, that drive your visibility. You know about earned media, that wonderful third-party validation that my colleagues and I work on quite a bit here at R.W. Jones. the storytelling that you do that shows your mission in action with the stories of the people behind it, the thought leadership that brings authority to the work of your institution and those leading it. And then you've got your internal ambassadors. They are the ones who can consistently help your brand be out there into the world. And so let's talk about a few examples of earned media. So we know that national, local, regional, global coverage really that reflects your mission and your values helps to frame your institution as a leader in its space. We know it's not just about reach, it's about resonance. So here's an example. Great public institution in Virginia, William and Mary. They are a mid-sized research institution that is a place that you definitely want to know about if you're interested in American history. One of the things that has been happening at William and Mary that we helped with because we're their partner is getting the news out about discoveries that were made about the oldest existing building in this country used in the 18th century to educate enslaved and free Black children. This was a structure that was still there on their campus, hiding in plain sight. A faculty member did the research, found it. They did all kinds of dendrochronology, which is the study of wood and the age of wood. All of this research is part of what William and Mary aims to do as a 335-year-old institution, which is tell a fuller story of our American history with all of the bad, the good, the ugly. William and Mary is open and proud about talking about this and using their research to tell this story. So they uncovered this building, they uncovered some major artifacts. This was a story we were willing to help them tell, and gladly so. So we aim high here. We actually were able to help them get this news out to major media, from the New York Times, the Washington Post. It went global. And then when more discoveries kept going along the way, we were able to then peg it. The most recent discovery in another way was to talk about the connections to Juneteenth, because since then, this building has been moved down the street to Colonial Williamsburg. Now, Colonial Williamsburg has taken this in partnership with the research from William and Mary, and this will be a building that all of America or any visitors from any nation can come and see. This was a pitch that we also made for Juneteenth. And again, a beautiful resulting story in the New York Times. That's the kind of partnership we have with our institutions, where we work through something that they may have that may be newsworthy, noteworthy, and help find the right home for it. We love being matchmakers here. The stories that institutions would like to tell with the outlets that would be receptive to doing something about that. The other thought leadership piece that I'd like to talk about is presidents who are very interested in getting on the op-ed page of fill in the blank. It's usually a very high bar. They want the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal. Well, my colleagues and I worked with a particular president at Carleton College out in Northfield, Minnesota, because Carleton was going to be one of the schools subject to an endowment excise tax that was going to cost them millions. My colleague, Jeff Canning, worked with the president to help shape her thoughts. She's already quite a great writer, but still shape her thoughts into an op-ed. And then he shepherded that process all the way through with the editor. Again, that's the kind of work we can help with. And it's so rewarding. In fact, the alums and community members for that institution will not stop talking about this. In fact, the legislation, whether this piece moved the needle or not, we'll never know. Other work probably helped. But anyway, this piece ended up being published in the Washington Post. Carleton is no longer subject to an endowment excise tax. This was one of many steps that our thought leader presidents will take when it comes to advocacy work. I understand that not every president wants to do this, but for those who do, we're here to help. Then I want to talk a little bit about some other work that faculty have done. Faculty have written their own op-eds, getting their own research out into the world. A recent example from another college, faculty member wrote about some of the disasters that have been happening, flooding in Texas and elsewhere. He wrote his piece for The Hill, which you may know as an outlet. That then was read and picked up because journalists are searching on their own, of course. They come to us because we work with dozens and dozens and dozens of institutions, but we know they're searching on their own. That same faculty member, after publishing that piece in The Hill, has now gotten 2 other opportunities for the New York Times just in the past week. Other faculty members at other institutions we work with have followed up with expertise on wildfires in California. Pomona faculty member Shar Miller and my colleague Jillian here have done tremendous work. Again, his feedback on wildfires and remediation in the Los Angeles area, his comments have now gone global. Let's not forget the owned and paid channels. So your website, newsletters, social platforms, they're vital vehicles too. And we know paid campaigns amplify reach. But remember what Sarah said earlier, authenticity is at the core of all of this. I remember what I told you. I hate the word spin. I'm allergic to spin. We want authenticity. We want to use all of your own paid, earned channels and social channels to reinforce core messages and distribute high quality content that aligns with your brand narrative. And your internal ambassadors, your faculty, your staff, your students, your alums, they're helpful here too. The reputation work isn't done by marketing and communications pros alone, nor by us alone here at R.W. Jones and Eddie. They are all playing a role. You got to equip them with the language that you want them to use, the stories, and the confidence to speak proudly and consistently about your institution. Think about the fact that they often live, learn, work, study in neighboring communities too. So they're getting out there into the world and sharing this information. And remember that everything should be aligned across your digital campaigns, your student communications, and your donor outreach. Build a message map if you need to unify your narratives across all platforms. These 2 examples, the New York Times coverage of the discoveries at William and Mary, the Washington Post thought leadership example. There's plenty where that came from, so we're glad to share more if you're interested. And then the storytelling piece, the advocacy work has been pivotal this year with, as you can imagine, legislation in the US that included higher education, and that was critical for our schools to learn how to become advocates, to get their messages out. Some did more economic impact reports than they've ever done before. So that was critical to them succeeding with some of their advocacy work this spring. So here we are back again at the R&R, revenue and reputation, brand and bottom line, a strategic symbiosis. I guess we really like alliteration here. But this is critical. If you take away from this revenue and reputation, let's stop separating brand from revenue, because when your institution's visible, trusted, more students consider you, more donors support you, people want to back a winner and somebody they believe in. More partners want to work with you. And so, yeah, your reputation either opens doors or closes them. Donors, like I said, donors want to invest in institutions they believe in, and those they're certain that'll advance their causes. An example from DePauw, I think we have someone from DePauw joining us today, but the recent, not all that long ago, $200 million that came into DePauw was because that donor and those donors believed in the direction of the institution, believed where the leadership was taking it. And that was because there was a strong strategy behind it. There was a great plan. The school knew also what to do with it when that $200 million was in the books. And that gained then, of course, more interest and more donors interested in more money, and on it goes. But DePauw knew what it was. It knew what its brand was. It knew how to talk about it. And it's really worked for them. Okay, now measurement. and reporting. You see these graphics. So awareness, how do we do that? Via search, mentions, share of voice. Sentiment, again, surveys. We can look at the tone of the media coverage. Perception, engagement, reputation health index, revenue impact, all of that we can do via surveys. We can do through third-party descriptors. Yes, we can look at traffic, inquiries, and conversion. So all of these it is possible to measure and report back. We know, again, that you're being asked for measurement and reporting, and we're here to say it can be done. So we're all future focused, right? And we want to know how we can make sure we have these important parties at our institution involved. Leadership plays a critical role in brand performance. Presidents, chancellors, your board, they set the tone. And so we want them all to be prioritizing visibility, and we want them to know how important it is. They are the examples for others to follow. Make sure that reputation is on the strategic agenda. Include it in your cabinet discussions, board reports, and strategic plans. The provosts, deans, and department heads, they reinforce the mission and the academic alignment with the faculty, who, as I noted earlier, their work really does help. Now, your CMO, CCO, COO, vice presidents, they help to build the capacity for the brand work, and they will be the ones to be measuring impact. That's many of you on this webinar. So we have to make sure that we've broken down internal silos, all of us pulling together. This has to be an alignment between marketing, communications, enrollment, advancement, academic affairs. You have to be singing from the same hymnal, as they say, or using the same playbook. And that's going to be helpful because the most trusted institutions are those that speak and act with, here's the A word again, authenticity. So, and remember, we talked about elevating reputation up until now. I'm fully aware of the fact that we spend a lot of time protecting reputation. In fact, these past few years, it seems like that's been quite a bit of the work. That's been quite a bit of the focus. So I don't want to downplay that, protecting as well as elevating reputation. So you do need to develop a crisis-ready posture because we know reputation can be fragile. So you're creating, basically by elevating reputation and working on that elevation, you're creating a proactive strategy for reputation management, including rapid response protocols, including media coaching and training, including scenario planning. But I think of this reputation building and reputation management as your goodwill that you've put in the bank. And if you need it one day because you come into an issue to manage or a crisis, you'll be glad you did. You'll be glad you had it. So what about working with us to build a 90-day brand action plan? We can help turn whatever those insights are into that brand infrastructure, conducting a brand audit, aligning all your teams internally with key performance indicators, launching a visibility campaign that's anchored in your mission, and start that board and cabinet level reporting on reputation metrics. Let us help you with these steps, beginning with either a refresh of what you've already done and you'd like to show us what you've done over the past few years, or if you want to launch something as soon as this summer. Keep us in mind. I think we're going to stop the recording now because...
So the first question is, how do you succeed in a communications world that is now driven in large part by what goes viral?
I'll jump in and start to say, remember that authentic word? Whatever you do, don't make it up. Make sure it's authentic to your institution. And as Sarah said earlier, video, video, video. Sarah, what would you add to that?
I would definitely echo you, Maggie, that it is not going to benefit you to chase becoming viral for its own sake. Rather, investing in really high quality content that adds value. Video can definitely be a huge format to do that in, and to kind of lean into that as the currency for how you connect with your students.
Next question is, can you all give a few examples of what it means to search by brand?
Absolutely. And it's not a silly question at all. It's really how we think about prospective students who are searching for variations of an institution's brand name, University of Missouri or Kansas State University. I'm based out of Kansas City, couldn't tell. And that really gives us a viewpoint into their mindset. They already have a pretty good understanding of the options available to them, who they're considering. By the opposite side of that then is non-brand, and that's going to be anything that is specific to a program that a user might be searching for, or very, very general education terms like getting your MBA online, or how do I go back to school and balance a full-time job. Those kinds of terms that are not specific to a program, but they're also not specific to a brand, we kind of lump those into general, or that's part of the larger non-brand umbrella.
Great. Staying on brand for just a moment, we have another question that students conceptualize acceptance rates in terms of brand. And how do you convey a high quality education and a high acceptance rate, which are not mutually exclusive?
Yeah, I'll start a little bit on that, which is we have done some persona research, and it shows that yes, there might be about a third or so of students who might equate high quality with a certain brand or with, a low acceptance rate. But the truth is what they're looking for is information about outcomes, careers, what can they do there? Alumni success, student profiles, awards, prizes, opportunities they'll have when they attend that institution. So fewer students are hung up on that than one might think. And we're glad to share some of that data with you later. Sarah, what would you add?
Yes, I would definitely agree. And I think it also makes sense to ensure that the content you are creating leans into the message that you think is more valuable than acceptance rate, as a conveyor of quality. So if that's job placement rates or alumni outcomes, really continue to emphasize those areas, and certainly acceptance rates. If a student is interested in that, they're going to find out that information. But if you're leading with some of those more value-based outcomes from their education, then I think that helps contribute to a really good and strong story.
Well said. Yeah.
Here's another question. I keep hearing about the role of YouTube in brand awareness. Can you give examples of a school who had success with this? Do we post videos, links, etc.?
Yes, that is a great question. And YouTube is definitely a platform that I highly, highly recommend institutions invest in. For a long time, I think YouTube had the reputation of just being the how do I change my oil sort of platform, but more and more, especially within higher education, prospective students are treating YouTube search very similarly to how they would social media or even regular Google search, where they want to have an understanding of the types of programs you offer, financial aid, how you navigate an admissions process, a lot of those kind of questions that you grapple with when you're considering furthering your education. What impact will it have on my career? All of those things are very, very ripe content opportunities where maybe historically we've thought of, let's develop a blog post or update our program page content. Those are still great things to do. I would also highly recommend that you start to think about how you can position that content within a video format. And it does not have to be highly produced. There are a lot of tools that can help take your existing written content and transition it into graphic video. Also, a lot of prospective students are really hungry for user-generated content. So you can have your alumni or your students or other brand ambassadors help contribute to video content just using their iPhones. If you give them specifics around, here's the type of content I really want you to capture. That could be so valuable to a prospective student if they can hear firsthand from a current student what their experience is like. So all of that video content, it should really be considered this huge library of resources for your prospective students who will be searching within YouTube as well as regular Google. Google prioritizes those video results in their search engine results page. All of that is really going to help amplify your brand.
And I want to give a plug for our colleague, Sarah Goldfarb, who really wrote the book on brand ambassadors when it comes to social. So I would love it if anyone wanted to consult with Sarah. We're happy to make that happen.
Great. Another question, Sarah, directed for you. Why pay for branded CPC if you already rank 1 or 2 with that branded keyword or phrase? Is there a reason to keep paying for the clicks? And then a follow-up question is, how important are Wiki and Reddit right now?
Okay, there's a lot to unpack there.
That is a lot to unpack. I'm happy to read it again.
I might have to
as you get through it.
Part.
Yeah.
The brand piece is an excellent question because on the surface, you're correct. Brand CPCs can typically run anywhere between $5 to $8. I think we've seen specifically since some of the AI overview launches, some of those brand CPCs have been spiking for a lot of advertisers, not just within higher ed, but kind of across Google Ads as a whole. So why would you pay that every time? If someone would just click on your organic listing, you'll get that person for free, essentially. That is certainly an argument to be made. I think there are a couple of factors that need to be evaluated to determine if stopping your brand bidding is going to net out to a better result, or if getting into brand bidding is going to get you anything incremental. And the questions are, what is your organic website experience, and how does that cater specifically to prospective students? For a lot of institutions, their organic website has to serve a multitude of audiences, not just prospective students, but current students to log in to their student portals, faculty, alumni, and donors. There's a huge array of audiences. And so for a prospective student to click on an ad, they're generally going to be driven to a much more insulated, conversion-focused experience. And you're really going to be able to capture that prospective student at a higher conversion rate to inquiry than you typically would on an organic site where there's a lot more avenues for them to kind of get lost. So our conversion rate from that initial click to an inquiry or a lead tends to be a lot higher on paid sites if we're driving them to a more curated landing page or microsite experience, which I would highly recommend you do, versus driving them to the organic website. So we tend to see conversion rates on the organic site around 1%, and conversion rates for brand terms on a microsite or a landing page should be much closer to 8 to 10%. From there, I think the other thing to consider, and there are kind of incrementality tools and things that you can use to test this, is really examining the assumption that every prospective student who would have clicked on your ad will then be captured by your organic listing. I certainly do not think that is a given, especially in today's search marketing experience where you have a huge amount of disruption from AI overviews that are shifting organic listings down. You've got a lot of competitive conquesting where if you're not bidding on your brand term, maybe other institutions see that and they can then try to enter those auctions, and then they're appearing above your organic listing, and that can impact the rate at which prospective students who would have clicked on your ad will click on the organic listing. So there's a lot of factors there. I generally think for the most part, it will make sense for schools and institutions to bid on their brand and to drive that traffic to a microsite or a landing page experience that is very, very focused on capturing prospective student intent. I think there can be nuance to that, where if there are particular modified versions of your brand, that it wouldn't make sense to bid on those. So for example, you should probably be negative matching your brand name plus student login, or your brand name plus alumni, whatever, things that are not that will kind of clearly indicate that there is not a prospective student intent in that search. Absolutely, you should be kind of safeguarding your brand approach there. Second half of the question, Bethany, I'm going to repeat it and make sure I get it right. Was it about, actually, no, just feed it back to me, please.
How important is Wiki and Reddit?
That's right.
Yes.
Hugely important. And I would say Reddit, typically for a lot of institutions right now, is more impactful from a search marketing perspective than Wikipedia. And that is because of two things. Number one, Google has for the last couple of years been steadily increasing some of the rankings for even older Reddit threads that have not gotten a lot of recent engagement, if that is still highly relevant to the prospective students' search in that moment or their overall search journey, because Google's looking at all of those audience signals, not just that immediate search term. They will surface those, and they're getting a lot more visibility now than they were maybe a couple of years ago. The other thing is that authenticity piece that both Maggie and I mentioned a few times. Reddit is a platform that is built entirely around authenticity, to the degree that I would recommend, when you are thinking about engaging in Reddit, that you do so extremely thoughtfully, because there are prospective student communities who might not react really well if a brand comes in and has a very salesy message. It has to be about adding value. It has to be about finding ways to interact with that community in an authentic way. And maybe that's from your brand voice. Maybe that's from the brand or from the voice of your students or alumni or brand ambassadors. But I definitely would recommend taking an approach to Reddit that is a little bit more specialized than maybe your more general organic social media approach, because it is a very unique community. It has a very unique impact on search. And that really tends to have a lot of implications across all of your marketing. Wikipedia, I think, can be important as a kind of brand pillar of who you are in your history, but it's getting increasingly more difficult to edit if necessary. And so generally speaking, I don't think investing a ton of time there tends to be worthwhile from a marketing perspective. Maggie, I don't know if you have a different thought on that.
Not necessarily a different thought, but certainly want to make sure it's accurate. I think it's the bane of the existence of many campus leader when there's information there that's either not up to date or inaccurate. So that certainly is reputation damaging if it's not.
Great. We have just a few minutes left, and we have one final question. If either of you have any comments on marketing and recruiting to this current generation of students interested in graduate programs, any strategies or initiatives that you see working specifically for that generation?
I know Sarah's going to have great strategy. I just want to say the underpinning of it all will help you greatly if you already do have programs that are both affordable and flexible. We certainly have, in light of legislation that's just been passed, that will affect affordability in the graduate realm starting next year. So again, from the start, you have to have something that is affordable and flexible to market. Okay, Sarah.
Yes, absolutely affordable and flexible. And the impact on career outcomes, I think, is important across the board for all students, but certainly for the graduate student population, where that pursuing that often becomes a lot more about specifically achieving a goal through that, versus for a lot of first-time freshmen and residential on-campus freshmen, it might be a little bit more about experience or bucket list or doing a thing that you are expected to do. So those are a little bit different audiences. The other thing I would say is really necessary to think about when you're evaluating these strategies is we are to the point now where your graduate student audience is becoming larger and larger, more and more dominated by young millennials and even Gen Z at this point. I am shocked that we find ourselves here. I thought Gen Z was still, learning how to log into the internet, but no, they're actually getting to the point where they're interested in graduate degrees now. And so understanding that audience and how digitally native they are, how highly purpose driven they are, and really the experience that they expect both when searching for a school and then once they've contacted or engaged with a prospective school that they're interested in, what that experience looks like. So really putting a focus on leaning into the digital literacy of that audience, leaning into storytelling that really taps into that purpose-driven mindset of that audience would certainly be my recommendation.
Outcomes, alumni outcomes.
Yes. Yes, that's a great message. Well, thank you both, Maggie and Sarah, for the great information you shared today, connecting revenue and reputation. I would like to thank everyone who participated in this webinar. We had a lot of great questions and lively participation. So thank you all so much. Please reach out to us should you have further questions, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.